Hello, everybody. We
Howdy.
are happy to be here again today.
We are zooming in at the last minute as usual. Got kids, got the COVID lockdown, Anyway, so happy to see that you're here. We have a number of first-timers here. One has already dropped his name in it, and of course, I'm not going to be able to find it when I want it. Oh, no, Rusty Jenkins is a first-timer. Everybody who's a regular, we want to have you do a shout-out to Rusty. And if you are a first-timer and you haven't told us and you're watching, then let us know as well so we can welcome you. This is starting to explode as one of our most attended session for a research event. Usually lots of people come to DNA, so I'm so happy that you're here. We are going to be talking about Google Spreadsheets. So some of the principles that you want to do with spreadsheets, you can do on Microsoft Excel, you can do on Apple Pages, but one of the great things about Google Sheets is it does not matter what your platform is. Mm-hmm. You can use spreadsheets to do some of these things.
And it's all online, so it doesn't matter what computer you're at.
Yes,
you
absolutely.
can be able to access your stuff.
Absolutely. And if you like this training so well and you want us to do one specifically for Excel or Open Office, we may record that later and throw it up on our new Facebook page group. It's a group. So the link to join the Facebook group is in the description. I got that there before we started. We already have 31 members and climbing. Super excited for those of you who have found it. We are going to have some content that is only here on YouTube and some content that is over on Facebook. Just because of the YouTube algorithm kind of squashes some of the stuff that you guys keep asking about. And we want to make sure that we're serving you and keeping all the platforms happy. So that's why we made that change.
Did you ever see your poll that you put out? See if anybody else answered that?
Yeah, just give me a second. It's on our community page, and we have let me refresh that. See, there were 2 votes. There is a poll over on our community page.
That's better. And
we've had 10 votes so far. We have 10% that say and the question was, do you use spreadsheets for genealogy research? And 10% have said, yes, I'm proficient. 70% said, yes, but I want to learn more. The other one remaining was, no, I don't use them, but I want to learn more. And no one has said, the only spreadsheet I want is clean sheets to spread on my bed. I'm sorry, I'm so punny. I like those kinds of jokes. They're supposed to be dad jokes, but I think they're mom jokes anytime. All right, so Andy, take it away with some of the things that you're going to share, and I'm going to read the comments and get caught up.
All right, so I have been using spreadsheets since the mid-'80s. Yeah, late 80s probably. So I started with a program called Quattro Pro. Anybody that remembers Quattro Pro?
I haven't heard about that in eons.
Exactly. It hasn't been around in eons. But that was the first one that my dad had bought for our computer. And then at school we learned something 1, 2, 3.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
But it was like DBase and then something 1, 2, 3.
Okay, they're going to have to tell us in the
So
chat.
that one's no longer around at all. And then after that, I think we got Excel finally in the 90s. And I've used Excel and Open Office. And of course, now Google Sheets are, all 3 of those are still around. I have not ever really used Apple Pages, but almost everything with spreadsheets is the same for most things. There's usually just a few little quirks that once you learn them, then you can handle them.
The formulas don't tend to transfer over. They have some coding issues. Or
yes.
macros.
Yes. Well, macros almost never transfer over, right? And formulas usually transfer... Lotus. There. People were saying Lotus. Access. So Access is a database, which is sort of like a spreadsheet, but not the same.
No, but it very similar.
Lotus
Good
1, 2,
job.
3.
You guys are so smart.
But yeah, with formulas usually transfer over, right? Because while you write the formulas in different between, let's say, Excel and Open Office, there's a definite way that formula is set up, and so that can do a one-to-one transfer over to try to figure everything out.
All right. We were told we were dating ourselves with the Lotus.
Lotus 1, 2, 3.
But we're all in good
No,
company.
so quick story. We'll go back big for a quick story.
This is why you come to live.
This is family history.
It is family history. This is why you come live.
So, in elementary school, well, 2 quick stories. All right.
Oh no, we'll be here forever.
Maybe. So, in
But you
elementary
can't say it depends because I don't have the emoji for our channel membership.
yeah,
I'm so
that's right.
sorry.
So when I was in elementary school, this was in, the middle 80s or so, and we were learning cursive, and, the teachers at the time, they drilled into us. You need to know cursive because everything you write in high school and in college is all going to be in cursive. You're going to be writing all your reports in cursive. Everything is going to be in cursive.
Okay, who in our audience told your class that?
If you were an English teacher and you taught cursive back in the 80s and you said that, admit it now. Now, at the time, in the 80s, I was a dumb kid. I didn't know any better. And so, of course, if my teacher told me that, I was going to believe it. However, by the time middle school got there, probably about half of our reports were written in cursive and the other half were written on a computer. By the time I was in high school, I can only remember the tests that you had that you were doing it in class. Those were the only ones that you ever wrote in cursive. Everything else was written on a computer, either at home or at the school's computer. Mm-hmm. And when I was in college, I never wrote a single report in cursive. Even the ones that came, hey, we're doing a report. Essay? Your timed essay. I just wrote in normal script.
Oh, that's true. But you're an engineer and you have really terrible handwriting. Moving on. People want to know about spreadsheets.
So that was the first thing. That was the first story. Now, related to that.
It better be related to spreadsheets.
It is related to spreadsheets. So when I was in 10th grade, I took a class, it was called business communications or business computers or something like that, where you learned how to use Lotus 1, 2, 3 and DBase and something else. And the cool thing about this class is at the end of the semester, when you passed the class, they gave you a certificate saying that you were proficient in whatever. And the teacher then was all about, this is going to be able to help you get a job and all this stuff because you have this certificate that you can show your employer. Well, by the time I needed any kind of a job that used a computer, that certificate was so obsolete. And in fact, Lotus 1, 2, 3 I don't think was around anymore. And other things like that. And I'd already known more about spreadsheets by that point that some certificate from high school wasn't going to matter at all. So if you are a teacher, I would warn you about telling your students that this is going to be critical for you because the world changes and it might not be critical for you.
Ronna Twedwell said that they didn't, she didn't not say that she did cursive, but she learned typewriter. 120 words a minute. Whoop, whoop. My mom was up there. I think I got to 80.
I got a funny story with typewriter, but I won't tell it.
Spreadsheets.
I won't tell it because we're going to get onto our spreadsheets.
Oh, they don't teach. Okay, so for those of you who are around the world, we've got, I saw Sweden, Anna Karin, and Kirsten are Swedes, and some other ones joining in. And there was from England and Canada. And some of you have been said, I have no idea what you're talking about. And Ronna just said, we don't teach cursive in Canada anymore. So what do you do your handwriting in? Do you have a cursive script? That's going to be interesting. So let's keep the chat going. That's kind of fun. But you need to tell us about spreadsheets.
So there's first question actually that somebody had. Stacy, what is the difference between a spreadsheet and a database? So simply put, a spreadsheet can be just a single sheet of rows and columns, and it really grew out of accounting for the most part. A database, on the other hand, is sort of like several spreadsheets together that interact with each other, and they have specific attributes within it, and that's how that interaction happens. So that's one way to look at it.
You need to go big for a second.
So, what do you mean go big?
The transition. We got the little screen. Thank you so much.
Oh, we're going back.
All right,
Sorry.
So I was programming databases for the Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport back in the 90s as part of my internship program. And spreadsheets could handle a little bit of data, but we were processing data for all the cars that would hit the toll road, because in the DFW airport, you have 3 styles of airport terminals on one side of this main road and 3 on the other. And so you got paid. You could use the road if you're just going from one highway to the other, and it'd be a toll road. And then you would also use the same toll booths for your parking rates. And so there were a lot of people going through those toll booths. So databases are a way to process a ton of information. So Family Search, Ancestry, MyHeritage, all of that's databases. But when we are trying to process some of our information, we're doing smaller segments. So while you can pull database data from spreadsheets like a database would, we don't necessarily need a database for what we're going to do. So great question.
Yeah.
Let's get back to basics, because we have some people who are like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay. So transition back so we don't do the whole thing without showing a spreadsheet. So here is our spreadsheet on Google Sheets. You can just, if you have any kind of Gmail account, you can be able to open up a Google Drive and open up a Google Sheets anytime.
Just kind of walk through
and
that.
It's safe. I'm going to walk. Oh.
No, getting to a spreadsheet.
Oh, getting to a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So back on Google Drive here.
You do drive.google.com in the header bar, and then you come to a main page.
Yep. You're going to click on New, and it says, hey, do you want a doc? That's like something to write on. Sheets, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Slides is a presentation. Forms is something else. And then they have some even more stuff. So I just click on Google Sheets, and it's going to open up a new spreadsheet. So this is our spreadsheet. And let's just go through some of the different things on it. So first off here, this bar is like our formatting bar and some other operations. So if we want to change the color of the text or change the size of the text, it's going to be up here. Okay. Our menu bar, there's some things that are specific to spreadsheets. And in particular, it's going to be something called data. And this allows you to actually manipulate this data. And I'll show you some things here in a little bit of how we can manipulate data. But a lot of the other things you're probably familiar if you use a Word doc or anything else. So formatting, inserting, changing the view, editing, and that. The way a spreadsheet's set up is rows and columns. So along the side here, we have all the rows numbered, and there can be any number of rows. So this starts off with just 1,000 rows. I can delete rows. I can add rows. And the difference with what Devin was saying is usually with a spreadsheet, there's a limit of somewhere around 65,000 rows or maybe 100,000 rows, something like that. Whereas with a database, you literally can have a table that has millions and millions and millions of rows. I have a friend who works with database programming for a bank, and they process, one of the ones he's in charge of has to do with processing their checks, and so they literally get millions of new entries into this database every single day, and they have to be able to find and go through and all that stuff. So across the top is labeled by letters, and this is your columns, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and again, this can go on for some set amount, 10,000, 20,000, whatever. It goes to Z, and then if you start adding columns, it is going to add, starting with A, B, A, C, A, D. So we're not going to need that for what we have right now. Now, each one of a column and a row together is called a cell. So this is cell A1, while this one over here is E10. So each location is a separate cell, and each location you can put some information in, and that information can be anything. So we could type a name, John Smith, and we could say that he is 25 years old and he was born in 1996. We can say that he has red hair or anything else. So we'll just put his first name here, surname, age, birth year, hair color. And we could go and we can start adding more people. So this is Amy Johnson.
Can you make that a little bit bigger?
She
It's hard to
is,
read.
can do that.
Thank you.
She is 42. Look at that, 42. And so she would be born in 79. And she has blonde hair. So we could go and we could start making a list of things. And then we can, I'm going to just highlight that top row and I'm going to delete it. So now I have this here. But then we can start to manipulate this data. So this first row is our header row, so I'm just going to make it bold so it stands out. So I just highlighted that by highlighting this first row, and I click on this bold button up here. Now the other thing, just looking at this, is, you know, these two columns, they really need to be centered because it's just the age and the birth year. So I'm going to highlight those two columns, and I do that by just clicking on the C and while holding my button down, dragging over to the D. And then over here, there's these extra little dots. I can see, hey, how do I want this aligned? I want it centered. And that's going to just move the stuff to the center. I can go and take the edge. You know, see when I put right at the edge here, I can now have a little arrows going both ways. I can grab that and I can change the width of the column that way. So some things may not need to be as wide, some things may need to be longer. So when you think about it, if you have, let's say, a website address, that might be really long. You might want to lengthen out that column. So I can make this spreadsheet look, I guess, more visually appealing to me.
Yes.
However you want. Okay? Now, the nice thing about this is I can take this data and I can rearrange it in all sorts of different ways. So I'm going to just highlight this first row, and I'm going to go to View, and I'm going to freeze that first row. And what that does is that first row now is going to always be at the top. So if I scroll down, you can see the numbers here are getting higher, but that number 1 stays there, and that header row stays there, which is great when you have a lot of data because then you can always see what the header of that is. The other things I can do is I can sort this table by any one of these columns. So let's say, for instance, I'm going to do a Control All. So hitting the Control key and All, that highlights everything. And then I want to go click on Data. And I want to create a sort range. So
I love sorting.
yes.
Sorting is great.
The first thing here is since I have that header row highlighted, I'm going to say it has a header row. And you'll notice that it changes this from just a generic column A, B, C, D to whatever my header is. So I can sort by surname. And it's going to sort those two by surname. You can see now Amy is first. If I want to do that again and I want to, you know what? I want to actually sort that by the birth year. And Amy is still. Or I can say data sort range. Well, I want to sort by the birth year, but I want to go from the most recent birth year to the earliest birth year. So I just change it from A to Z to Z to A. There, just like that. And so this is really powerful when you're looking at this, is because what we're able to do is we're able to take large amounts of data and manipulate them in a way that we can start to see some different things. So the other thing with data that I'm going to show you here is I'm going to highlight it all. I'm going to create a filter. Now you'll notice when I created this filter, it put a little arrow on each one of these columns. There's a little arrow on each one of these. So now, if I want to just look at all of the red heads in this list, I can go and click on that arrow and I can take off the blondes and it's just the redheads. And now it has a little funnel telling you that there's a filter attached to this, and it's only showing me the redheads. Now it hasn't gotten rid of any of the other data, but it's only showing me the redheads.
Awesome. I need to interrupt for just a second.
Absolutely.
So some folks sitting in the chat are like, are we going to get to something more than just basics, and I believe we are, but there's a number of people in our live stream who are just new to spreadsheets. So we're trying to cover some of those basic skills first, and then we'll progressively get a little more advanced. So just stick around. And then if you ever get lost, 2 things you need to do. 1, you need to ask questions. Put a Q in front of it so that I can see what your question is. Because right now there's lots of answers going through and I have to go back and see what it is. Number 2, the replay for this webinar, because it's a live stream on YouTube, will be made available right after we're done. Right after we're done. Now I have to cut off that intro part so that you can just get straight into the training. I can't do that for 24 hours, just the way YouTube works. But you can watch this and you can pull up your spreadsheet and walk through the steps and then also see the training side by side. So just wanted to give you that comforting reassurance. There is no reason to ask when's the replay. The replay is available as soon as we hit stop.
Yeah. Okay. So the next thing that we can do here with this is I'm going to take away the birth year for a second, because let's say that we actually got this information from something else, like a census record. And this was the 1920 census. Well, if you're not good at math or you don't want to do a lot of math, you can have the spreadsheet do the math for you. So I'm going to put a formula in, and I'm going to say that this equals, it's the 1920 census, and I'm going to subtract their age. And so I just either highlighted that cell of the age, or you could type it in. So in this case, C2. Hit enter, and it has put that in. Now, Google Sheets has an autofill, where if it recognizes that you have this table of stuff, it's already going to say, hey, do you want us to fill in everything else down this column? Well, yeah, I do. So now I only had 2 people. I could have easily put this in, easily done the math in my head. But if I had 500 people, well, it'd take me a while, especially on a live stream, but the spreadsheet allows it to happen pretty much instantly. Okay? So those are some basics. So let's get into something that's actually genealogy related.
Awesome. Some people would like to see some examples, some different spreadsheets that we use. So I'm hoping you're going to share that. And then at some point, we can also share some of the different ones that I've used for my land record research and my data mining research and all that stuff like that. So just kind of put that into the flow. They're saying yes, yes, yes. They want to see some examples, because Cosmic Slice was saying, I hadn't thought to use spreadsheets for genealogy research. Now, some people have limited themselves to you. I'm giving you a chance to move things up as you will.
I'm ready. So.
You're ready. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to segue this. Some people have just used genealogy spreadsheets to just create a research log. Well, there's so much more that you can do. So we're going to show you an example.
Okay, so we're going over to the St. Kevin Local History Society website. I have ancestors from St. Kevin, so I use lots of data from here. Now, on this website, they have data in 2 different ways that you can possibly be able to get stuff into a spreadsheet. And depending on which website that you're on for whatever data you want, it may be in a nice format to easily get into a spreadsheet. In this case, I've just looked at the family records, the marriages from 1609 to 1812. And I can see as I scroll down, this is, not 3 or 4. This would take me a while to actually look through all of this myself. I could copy all of this and paste it in a spreadsheet. So I'm going to just do Control A. That's going to copy the whole page. And then, or that's going to highlight the whole page, and Control C will copy it. I come back to my spreadsheet, and here I'm going to get back out so that you can see. And if I just do a Control Shift V, that will paste everything unformatted. Now, as I look at this, it's nice because I can see, hey, this is actually somewhere around 2,000, 2,100 records.
Wow.
Okay. I don't want to look through 2,100 on that. I don't need these first part for sure. So I could actually go and I could highlight that and delete those rows. And it moves everything else up. Now what you will notice here is it looks like it's somewhat formatted for a spreadsheet, but it's not. Remember, each spreadsheet has a row and a column. Now, while this looks like, hey, column A's just got that parish, column B's got the first name, well, we start seeing column C that it's off a little bit. By column D, we're getting some of those dates outside of it. We're not sure what column E is. Column F looks like it might be two different things. And when you see something like this, what's actually happened is if we look here at line 3, we can see up here that it has actually put everything all in one cell. It hasn't put it in separate cells. And that's because of the way it was formatted on the website.
So what you're saying is there's a lot of websites that have tables, but when we do a copy and paste, that table date column structure does not port over into a spreadsheet.
Nope. If it is set up, if the website is set up as a table, then it will. And I'll show an example of that later when we get to some different things.
Okay.
In this case, this is not set up as a table. This is actually set up each letter with a bunch of spaces in between.
Okay. So how are we going to turn it into a table?
So how are we going to turn it into a table? Well, the nice thing here is they have the ability to download a file.
But not every website.
Not every website has this. And we're going to download a census one. Let's do the 1861 census. And this is going to download as an XLS file. They actually already have it as a spreadsheet file.
So Microsoft Word file.
Microsoft Excel file.
I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the writer in the family, can you tell? Everything's MS Word.
So let's go here and get rid of this data. I'm just going backwards, hitting the backwards button, and that just undoes the last operation.
Wait, you just dragged and dropped it.
I couldn't remember if I could drag and drop that like that, so that's why I was doing that. But what I'm going to do is I downloaded it, and it's down here.
On your desktop.
On the desktop.
And they can't see it's there.
Oh, they can't see it's there?
No.
Okay. Anyway, I've just dragged it into my Google Drive.
And I hope this is something that's across platforms. We're using Chrome. There's a bar that comes up across the bottom when you download a file. You just clicked on the little tabby thing right there and drag it into a Google Drive space.
Yep. So I'm going to right click on this because this is in Excel format. And I want to actually open it up in Google Sheets. So that way I get a Google Sheets doc and it all has the right thing. Now, as time goes on, a lot of these websites, they are making the information better transportable across different platforms. But it's always good to make sure that you know which one that you're working in.
Okay.
All right, so we've got my information here. Let's zoom in a little bit so we can see. Oh, that's smaller. There.
Question, because you're about to do something here.
Yep.
Stacy asked, I know in Open Office we can see how wide the column is. Is there a way to do that in Sheets?
There is. So if we just highlight a column, we right click, we go to resize the column, and it's going to tell us what the column size is. That's one way that you can resize it as well. Okay. So I'm going to first highlight this first row. I don't want to save it as XLS.
I think you have to make a copy.
I do.
Or save as it says save
there,
as Google
save as
Sheets.
Google Sheets. I knew there was another way of doing it. Okay, so now this is Google Sheets. And one thing, do they have that on here yet? No, they don't have it on there yet. So now I can make this 125. I'm going to close out that one. I can make this first line bold. This is my header row, and I'm going to go to View, and I'm going to freeze that first row because I always want to have that first row available to me. Then I'm going to resize my column sun. So here's the book number. There's the enumeration district. There's the parish. Here's the schedule number. And then we get to some other stuff, which you'll notice, hey, this actually has some more information than what that website had.
Ooh, that's nice.
So yeah, that is nice.
So if you are from St. Kevin, your website is really awesome.
I know. I love St. Kevin. Their website is absolutely awesome.
More people should be like St. Kevin.
That's right. If you have ancestors from St. Kevin, you're awesome too.
Okay, I'm not exactly sure. I think this is related. Maria was asking if Excel is open, can you do this the same way?
Yes.
I think you have to control and copy and paste it into Google Sheets, or...
Yeah, you'd have to you have to just copy that information from Excel, paste it in Google Sheets, and it's going to paste it as this spreadsheet, everything in this. See, if you'll notice here, as I go to each one of these cells, the information is just that little tiny bit of information, unlike the other one where it was everything for that person. This is just, one person. So we have here a census record, which means we've got a lot of people. Now, if we scroll down to the bottom, we can see 1,801 people in this town from the 1861 census in England. So the first thing sometimes I like to do with a census record.
Before you go, I have another question.
Okay.
Are you, because somebody's wondering, and I don't like people to sit and tune out, are you going to show us how to fix the one where it was all in one column? I mean, in one cell?
No, because that's much more advanced.
That's much more advanced. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. But Westy Mom, I wanted to get your question in there, because I don't know about you, if I have a question and I don't get an answer, then I tune out. So we got that one in.
Yeah.
There's some other questions that I think fit a little bit later, so that's why I'm working them in.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this L column. I'm going to right click and I'm going to insert one to the left. So I have a new column there. Okay. And I'm going to call this the birth year.
Ooh, good. I think this might come to Stacy's question. She was wondering, what if you want to add the autofill after you've set things up, like you get tired of doing the math?
Exactly. We'll do it that way this time.
Okay.
So
that's why you guys have to drop your questions in, because I haven't heard this presentation, but I know my husband well enough that I can work it in for you. So always ask questions. If you're lost, you should be asking questions.
So remember, we're going to write our formula, which is really simple because this is the census year. Now, the census was not taken the first of the year. It was taken the middle of the year. So some of these birth years might be off by 1 year. But for the most part, as far as trying to figure out when 1,800 people were born, this is a great estimate. So 1861 minus, and then I just highlight the cell with their age. So in this case, it is K2. I hit enter, and I'm going to not do this autofill. So it's come up with a birth year of 1786 for me. All right? And I can go and I can do that for everything if I want to. Equals 1861 minus, click on that. Except that's going to get really tedious, right? So there's lots of different ways that you can actually fill in all the rest of the data.
Well, I usually go into the cell.
So you go to the cell.
And there's a right little box there on the right. No, I don't do that way. There's a little square on the right corner.
We'll wait for that one because that's
Okay.
that's the more cool one.
Okay,
So,
I'm sorry.
One way that you can do it is you can highlight this cell. You can do Control C. That's going to copy it.
Or Command on an Apple.
And then go to the next place that you want it and Control V, as in victory. And that's going to paste it. Because Control P was already print, so they can't have Control P be paste.
Oh.
Control V is paste.
I always say V for Victor, because that was my great-grandfather.
We can do more than one. So I've copied this cell. I click on the next cell, and while holding the button down, I drag however many, and I can paste. And it's going to paste all of those. And you could keep on doing that through the entire thing, or Devin's way. Let's make this really big so that you can see. Oh, because this next one's pretty big. All right, so once I'm highlighting a cell, there's this little box at the bottom. What's great about that box is I can grab it and I can drag it, and it's going to highlight and copy that to everywhere else. Or, remember, we're up to 19 right now, and there's 1,800.
Right, so you have another cool way I've seen you do it. I hope you'll share.
I can highlight that cell, and on that box, I'm going to double click.
Oh, that's all you've done?
And you'll notice that has gone through almost all 1800 because there was a break somewhere.
Aha,
see? There's an empty line.
Absent on visit.
So I just have to go through, copy that down, double click.
Wow, that's way cool.
And again, there's another break, but
okay.
You get the idea.
Neat. All right, so that's really cool.
So see, I'm just dragging the whole thing down now. All right, so now I have everybody's birth year, okay? Which, from a genealogy standpoint, is great because now we can start to try to answer some genealogy questions. So let's go up to our data, and in this case, I'm just going to create a filter. And it's going to look and it's going to see that, you know what, all this looks like a table. I'm going to make a table of everything. And so now we have the ability to filter this. So I happen to be looking for somebody who was born in 1815 or thereabouts. We'll just say 1815. So I want to clear everything first, so that way it's not going to select everything. Type 1815, and I can click it. Now, if I wanted to look at, let's say, 1810 to 1820, well, I can go down and I can click each one of these. So I got this 10-year thing. So remember, with the census record, they're basically going house to house. So everything's all jumbled up. It's by families, but the people are all jumbled up. Well, then I click OK, and now it has given me this list of people who were born between 1810 and 1820. It's my grandfather that I'm looking for. So I'm going to just look at the males. Well, now I've shortened that list even more. Okay. I know that he happened to be married at the time. Now I'm just looking at the married people that are born from that time period. So
you're filtering.
I'm filtering. And let's go over here, and I'm pretty sure that he was probably just a farmer. So when I go down to this list, they might have recorded it in different ways. So there's an agriculture laborer, and farmer of 4 acres. Well, he's not going to be a blacksmith, a bootmaker, maybe a cattle farmer, but I can eliminate, any of these things that I don't think are it, and
wow,
just go. Yeah, they recorded a lot of the farmers by how many acres they had.
You know what though? There is a trick that I use right there. So go into your filter thing again.
Yep.
And clear them off, and then type farmer.
Okay, so you can type farmer.
And now it'll bring me all of the ones that have farmer in there, and then I can click.
Well, then you can just click select all. Because now it's just selecting everything with a farmer. Now, it's not going to get all the agriculture laborers.
Well, true.
But you could go back and you could add agriculture laborers to that. Mm-hmm. So now I've got this list. Remember, before I was looking at 1,800 people. Well, now I've narrowed this list down to looks like about 20 or 30 people. That's really manageable. So I've taken this census list, and on Ancestry or Find My Past or My Heritage or Family Search, they may not be able to search by all of these categories. But by having this on your own spreadsheet, you can search by all of these categories.
So if you want to get the data information from census records on different websites that don't have tables, that's when you're going to want to check out our video data mining, and then that ports into a spreadsheet, and then you can manipulate things like that. Now, there was something that I noticed. Do you have everybody up?
I have everybody back up. So
go to the year again, and to the filter. Now, a lot of times, some data seems to be quite wrong, like 1409 and 1644.
Yeah, do you think anybody was born in 1409 or 1644? Probably not.
So
their age was recorded as 452. So somebody in their transcription probably messed up. But here's what's nice about this. We can take a look at this. This is Maria. She is number 661, and she's a wife. So remember that line 661. We're going to go back and select all. And there's our Maria. but there is her husband, Thomas, who is 66. Now their son is 42.
Okay.
So, is she 45?
Probably not.
Probably not. Although...
Well, we don't know, because that could be a son from a previous marriage.
Exactly. That could be a son from a previous marriage. 52, she wouldn't be the mother at 52.
But that could be the stepmom.
That could be the stepmom. So she might actually be 65. She might be 45 or 42. But in any case, she's not 452. We know that. Okay? So here's another, since we have this up right here. You'll notice right here on this one, it doesn't have a year. And that's because this birth was recorded as days, so it's 1 day. Well, the computer is too dumb to know that 1 day is basically 0 years. So if you actually wanted to go in and correct that, you could, and just turn all these days into zeros, and then you'd get a birth year for that. Mm-hmm. Okay? So let's go and look at something else, since we got everything up. One of the first things I think people always think about is, well, what about my surname that I'm looking for? Now, I've gone and I've done this filter again. I've started typing that surname, and you'll notice that 2 came up. 2 different spellings of this name. I want both of them. Even though predominantly 1 was happening, it might have been recorded differently in another place. So if I look at all the Keverns in St. Kevern, I can see that, yeah, there's actually a few families that don't have the E on it, while others do have the E on it based on that transcription. The other great thing is, as I'm looking at this, when I have this living at open up, I can start to quickly see families because they're all living at the same place. Now, in England and Cornwall here, every place, basically every address has a cool name. Mm-hmm. Except for Church Village. That's the actual village of St. Kevern. But you have Erwin, which was a farm. And actually this Simon Kevern, I know, was one of my ancestors. And he looks like he is living with his father at the time.
Now, just a few more things that you can do with your spreadsheets that you might not have thought about for our beginners and our intermediates. And then we're going to go into show you some examples, because I know some people are like, okay, this is great. Now what? All right. So one of the things I want you to do is I want you to take off the surname and I want you to do a living at.
Okay. So
because sometimes we get so focused on a surname that we fail to realize multiple people could be in the same location. So just kind of pick one and we might get lucky. Who knows? Because we didn't do this in advance.
There, Erwin.
Oh, we did get lucky. Look at that.
So, Erwin Farm, just to give you all an idea of what it actually is, it's like this little tiny place of 3 or 4 houses all together that are all farms. And so here what we have is we have 1, 2, 3 families that are living here. We have 2 Kevern families who happen to have 2 servants. One of them has 2 servants, and then 3 servants. And then we have the Vivian family there as well. And if I remember right, this Vivian family, that Alice is a Kevern.
Oh.
It's like the sibling or the cousin of Simon.
But that was one way that you could kind of find out who all is living in the same home, and then you see these other names and you start to figure out how they're connected. Mm-hmm. So, Robert Bell had a suggestion, with your original, because we haven't done a lot of resorts. He had suggested adding a column maybe right in front of the A column, and do a number 1, 2, 3 and pull it all the way down. Mm-hmm. So that way you could always resort to the original. Yeah,
so let's do that and show. That's an excellent idea.
My nose
So we've got
itching.
Everybody here again. We're going to just add a new column, insert one left, and we're going to type 1. We'll start at the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4. And in this case, since we have a series going, I'm going to highlight 2 through 4. And then I'm going to click on the bottom square.
Oh, okay.
And that adds everything in series all the way to the end.
So the difference is that you had to highlight more than one in order for it to do that counting thing.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So let's get and resort this by surname. So we've resorted this whole thing by surname.
Somebody's said they like to make sloppy copies.
Sloppy copies.
So
So
fun.
we start off with here, hey, we already can see, hey, there's a bunch of people here that we don't have a surname for. It's not known. But
You can color code things like that so you can see it jump out later, maybe?
you
I don't know.
could, yeah,
Although there's 1 through 10.
right.
Oh, wait, but that's not permanent because that
That's
resorted because you don't have the filter on it.
Oh, whoops, you're right. I went back. I need to go back. So I need to go back here. I've added this column in after the filter, and it didn't add this into it. So I need to actually turn off the filter, and I need to create the filter again so that that column's highlighted. Then I can go over to my surname. I can sort by A to Z, and now we can see that the numbers are all over the
There you
place.
go. All right, so it has been 45 minutes. If you have more questions, put them in. I think it's time to kind of show some examples of the
Okay,
different
so
spreadsheets.
talk for a second, and I'll pull up some different spreadsheets.
No problem. Hopefully you can get to some of mine. They're in my account and not the FHF account, so we'll see. All right, so let's see. So someone said, I like Google Sheets because you can collaborate. I set up a timeline and a cut is in, and I can both contribute data to the spreadsheet. So somebody said, why should you use Google Sheets? And one of the reasons is because people, no matter what computer they're using, can use, so Apple's, Windows, anything like that. You can use spreadsheets. It's international, which is really great. And you can share your spreadsheets with others and they can contribute. So that's one of the great features of Google Sheets or just Google Docs and Drive in general. So, all right.
Keep talking.
I know. I'm looking first. So, yes, the examples are going to be coming up here in just a second.
Without saying your password, I need you to sign in.
Oh, yeah, no problem. We got to talk.
Yes, so I don't know what to talk about.
I call it the curse of the speaking. You can never type in what you're supposed to type in.
Okay, which ones do you want me to pull up from your stuff?
Type in land. All right, give me a second. I'll type things in. You just talk about some of the cool things that you do. Yeah, hold on. You got to talk, bud.
I don't know what to talk about.
Do you have another story that you wanted to share?
No, I can't think of one now.
Oh,
You didn't call it census. There you go.
yeah, I did. I just have to find them. So there's two. I think that's kind of a good start.
Here is. All right, transition. Okay. So here, real quick, let's get this down so you can see the whole thing. You might not be able to read it all, but this is actually a census comparison for looking at
early U.S. Census records from 1790 to 1840.
Yeah.
So in the United States, in 1850, for free people, they started listing everybody in the household. 1870, they started listing all the freed blacks as well, because everyone should not have slaves by then. So from 1790 to 1840, you have ticks and tally marks with a name of a head of a household. And so, what does the Census Tracker do?
So this actually lines them up so you can see where you would expect to find the family or what they would look like in each one of these censuses. Now, did you have one that was already filled in?
I don't.
Okay. I had one somewhere that was filled in, but I can't think of what it is now.
It isn't on the second page?
No.
Okay,
That's
yeah.
for the...
Anyway, just walk through one, just like pretend.
Okay. So here, let's do an 1840 census. Let's say that we have a family that they have a 10-year-old, somebody 10 and 15, two between 15 and 20, and then they have one there, one there. That needs to be doubled up. And one there.
Okay. So that is there. If you zoom in just a little bit, you'll see that I have an expected family. So you look at the 1850 census and you get a rough idea of what the family should look like in 1840. So then in actual, let's go in actual, I'm actually going to change the head of household to John Smith. So I go over to actual and put John Smith. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Where? Right here?
Right there. Yeah. Rename it John Smith. And then I and I actually add extra rows because sometimes there's a J Smith, a Joshua Smith, a John Smith, or Mr. Smith. You never know what kind of variance it'll be. And I start putting in the possibilities and then see how they line up. If I can track down the example I had for a lecture, I'll grab that and I'll put a screen capture of that in a blog post and I'll write this next week. And because somebody had said, hey, we want to see some of your examples later, and I'll create a blog post with some examples and you guys can see what I'm talking about. But so you start just going in and you look at the census record, the 1840 census record, and you put in some numbers. And if it lines up, then what I like to do is I like to highlight that row and like, this is a good fit, and I'll make it green. So highlight that John Smith as green.
So I'm going to highlight him, and I'm going to make this row green
Right.
with the paint bucket.
So then just insert another row, and we're going to call this J Smith. And we're not going to actually put any, I mean, we could, but I'm just trying to give you the basic principles of some of the things I like to do. So J Smith, we didn't really know what their name is, and we have some random numbers in there. But if it kind of looks like it could be a possibility, just in case the one that close isn't exactly right, I'll highlight it in yellow. So my greens are the ones that have high confidence. My yellow has mediocre confidence. And then I go to the next row, and what you're going to see in the 1830 census is then I'll go in and I'll put in what I expect, and you're going to see that people start to drop off because they're not old. I mean, they weren't alive when that record happened.
Yeah.
So it's a cool tool. Maybe we should do a census, actually in our channel membership.
Oh, is there your early census
I believe
class?
there's the early census record class.
So if you're a channel member, you can actually watch her presentation that she gave
Yep.
on how to use this one.
Yes, and I'll make sure I put a link to that in the blog post that I'm going to create.
And if you're not a channel member, you can actually join right now and be able to have access to that. All right, okay, so our next one here. This is similar to what we had from St. Kevern, but this is, this is the land records one. This is different.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I have going on. Let me explain that in just a second.
All right. So what we have here is, you'll notice at the bottom, there's actually multiple different sheets. Mm-hmm. So each one of these is a sheet, mm-hmm. and each one operates independently of the others, although you might have some formulas that pull some information somewhere. So what is the point behind this overall land record research spreadsheet?
So if you've watched my brick wall series from John Townley, now that one's free, anybody can watch those. You just it's there for the brick wall series. The first sheet was in my family tree. I looked for all of the people that were connected to Townleys, the John Townleys. So I have his wife and the Sextons. I've got the Porter, who also married a Townley. So I track the Townleys and I track their wives by their surnames because I want to keep all of those names going on at the birth, the date, a relationship, and notes. Now, I could have this over in a genealogy software program or an online tree, but when I'm doing genealogy research, I like to be in one thing And so that's why I put those people there. And then I can go add it to my research plan, and I can add it to my online trees and things like that. So the next page is actually, this is Cincinnati land records. And so what I went through in Cincinnati is, I don't believe in just go look for one person. I went and looked for all of the townlies, because with land records, you're going to find people hidden in other people's names. So if I'm looking for Richard Townley, he could be in a record for John Townley or his brother William Townley. So I just did a last name search, put all the Townleys there, and then I divided it between the seller and the buyer, or the grantee and the grantor, and nobody make fun of me for saying grantor like you did last time. And then the page and the book and the page number, because that's, you look at the index to get the book and the page number, and then you go to the book and the page number, and then you find your land records, and then I have this description and lot information, so then I can eventually sort by that to see where the land is changing hands.
So this is something where if on the website you actually found that they had the index on there, you can basically copy the index, the entire index, to your spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And then by sorting or filtering,
Yes.
you can figure out which ones you actually care about and delete all the rest.
And so then I use colors to highlight that I actually looked at those records. So in a way, it's a research log. It's like a massive research log. And one of the things, if you'll go up to the red, there isn't a index to the index that you can grab. I actually had to type things in. And so sometimes a couple of things happen. Either you wrote the information wrong. Maybe you put the wrong book and the wrong page number. So then I put a red so I can go back. Because I look in the index, and then I go look at all the records, and then I come back and go, where did I mess up with the index? And sometimes the index is wrong. So I have to go back and look at that. And so that's why I use like red for, oh no, that's not quite right. So things like that. All right, questions. Would you be able to give us a copy of the great template? Yes, I will make that census tracker available. Give me about a week to put this. I hadn't thought that I was going to make a blog post out of this, but there's so much great content. I will put it in a blog post, and I will put a link to the census tracker there for you guys as well, so you can just make a copy. So then the next one is mortgage, the same thing. I look in that unindexed, well, the non-computer searchable index to grab the information from the paper index. Then I can go to the actual images for that. And if you could go a little bit further to the New Jersey land one more page. Now this one, I do a lot of different things here. So in the book column, that's the book for the land records. When I find one, I actually, and show them this because you haven't done this already, click on a C3 or something, like C3D3, whatever. I will get the link to the image, and I will do, click on just a blank C3. Yeah, blank one, yeah. And do a Control K in Google Sheets, or do
right click, insert link.
Insert link, and then I'll paste that link in there. And then that way I can go back to the image again. Because I haven't quite put these onto the Family Search family tree as a link to individual people, because some people I'm still trying to figure out. But this is a way I can keep track of the link. Because I don't want to spend my time making source citations if I don't have to.
Dun, dun, dun.
But I want to be able to go quickly back to that record. So this is a way to add links that takes you back to the records.
Dun, dun, dun.
And then with the names, when I think I have figured out the people's names, then I'll do a insert, so a link to their profiles, and then I can get back there. So then when I'm all done processing everybody, then I can attach all this records to everybody. So that's another thing I kind of do. All right, so you can go to another one.
We got census. We talked about using this for census stuff.
Itch.
Okay, so here's the next table, and you might have seen some videos on this, and this is the chromosome, the visual phasing segment phasing, which is very similar to visual phasing. And it uses a spreadsheet to do lots of different things. So for instance, it is actually pulling information from one sheet to another sheet. So this information right here is all being pulled from this part right here. It is looking at different colors, and then through formulas, it comes up with your divided segments. And there's actually, so there's actually like three or four videos that go through how to use this, as well as a link to this visual phasing spreadsheet. So this is another way as far as using DNA information to keep track of your visual phasing if you're able to do that.
You should also probably pull up a leads chart.
Oh, I could. Let me go back and find one real quick.
You type in Devin. Is that my heritage cluster?
Do you have the leads chart on there also?
I do.
Okay. We talked about this in our members live stream last week.
And I will have a leads chart, my heritage video here, but you can see my final result.
So first off, this was started with a cluster report from MyHeritage, and that was imported into Google Sheets, and it just looks like clusters in different places. Oh, you've gone through this whole thing, and
I have. But then again, I have a small family, so
yeah, you were able to do that pretty quick.
I'm able to do that.
So
June and I both found out that we just have very few matches.
So what she's also added then is a leads chart for MyHeritage from here, and hers was really small, 17 people. But then she also did one from Ancestry, and again, just has this chart to help organize DNA matches in that way. So that is a way that you can be able to keep lots of things together from your DNA information.
Mm-hmm. So somebody else has said that, you could also put people's residences in there. Maybe you go in a city directory and you grab everybody by residence and do sorting like that. And you can do something like that as well. Can you grab information from Family Search and bring it over? Absolutely. The question is, how are you going to get it in there? A lot of times you're going to have to manually type it in there or bring it from some other source. There was somebody who said that there was a index that somebody else put out. So let's say that there was a genealogical society that put an index to probate records on their website. You certainly could use that and put that into your, like my New Jersey table, and then put it in. You just have to know where to look for the different sources and then use it for tracking. Oh, and surname tables. How could we forget about surname tables? Although Chris and Greg want to make a surname tables over on Wikitree, and I said, don't, because that's my popular video. It's okay.
Call it the Lee surname table or something.
Yeah, I call it the Fanatics surname table or something like that. But surname tables are a great way. Spreadsheets, the primary purpose is to help you track things. So we have a video coming out. This one will be released to the Family History Fanatics Facebook page, and it's going to be on fan charts that one of our fans, Greg Clark, did on Wikitree. And he has this really cool fan chart where he will have these little boxes so you can check the different tasks he wants to do for genealogy research. Well, you could do that same thing in a spreadsheet. You can put in a name, have the different resources that you want to look at. I also have on many blog posts, especially the ones that say brick wall, I have a link to a spreadsheet that's the ultimate brick wall resource guide, and that is a spreadsheet that you could use, and then you use it every time that you start working on a brick wall and start checking those off as well. So there really are a lot of uses for it.
So there's a question here from Ascertain.
There are some. I'm going to come back to yours just a second, Ascertain, because I have some queued up before you. So question and answer time. And Barb I did kind of talk about, can you use this spreadsheet to move all the people from Family Search to the spreadsheet? So I take issue with the word all because Family Search is massive. It's one tree. But you can move what you want over. The question is, can you bring it, how do you bring it over? You either have to manually bring it over, or you can use data mining. And so I'll have a link to that video after we finish in the description. So that takes care of that. Okay, I'm hoping, Stacy said, wait. Okay, so somebody said, how do you know what to do spreadsheets for when working on genealogy? I think I would end up getting overwhelmed on where to start. Now, that was a great question. I didn't initially start with spreadsheets. I started with databases. And then I started with research plans, which I highly recommend, and I will have a link to that in the blog post and the description. Write research plan for me so I can talk. But when you start needing to process data and a table in a Word document can't do what you want it to accomplish, then it's time to go to a spreadsheet. So when I was trying to track families in 1850 Lycoming County, Pennsylvania, and I think that's part of that data mining video, I was trying to see family clusters. Well, I could do a search on Ancestry and try to process all this massive amount of information, but when I data mined it into a spreadsheet, I was able to cluster families, and I started to see that there was this habit that a lot of kids were living with families and they didn't share the surname, and it's likely that the women didn't have that same surname, so they were like orphans or something. There's then some explanation of what's going on there, but that's a good use for a genealogy spreadsheet, or a spreadsheet in genealogy. So
basically, I would say whenever you have information that you want to organize in different ways or look at in different ways, you probably want to use a spreadsheet. Now, it may take some effort to get that data into a spreadsheet to begin with. Like, for instance, when we looked at the St. Kevin data, when it was just on the website, it wasn't set up well for copying over to a spreadsheet. And so, yes, there are some ways that you can manipulate that data to get it so that it's in a spreadsheet. However, we didn't go over that now just because it's a little bit more complicated. So after you do get that, though, in the spreadsheet, you saw we were able to sort, we were able to pull out different people that we want, we're able to add columns and find out birth dates, which is helpful in other ways. And so you can do that when you're thinking about DNA matches. You can be looking at certain clusters of matches. You can be looking at matches that are sharing a certain amount. If you've already identified how different people are related, you can sort by those people that are related. It all just depends on what information you've put in to make that information more available to you.
Okay, so we have some that are related to DNA.
Okay.
So we're going to tackle some of those. First question, is it better to do one spreadsheet for an adopted family and one for a biological family when you're doing spreadsheets with DNA matches?
Yes, I would say, because you want to keep that separated.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So spreadsheet, do you convert that with the auto cluster? Now, we walked through that, right?
Well, we didn't. I mean, what it was is
Stacy, this is your question. If we don't answer it correctly, put a follow-up, okay?
Yeah, so Stacy, what the auto cluster will do is that for MyHeritage is it downloads as a CSV file. And then a CSV file is basically a comma-separated file, which means when you upload it to a spreadsheet, the spreadsheet's going to say, hey, do you want us to separate this based on the commas? Which means every time there's a comma, it's going to go to a new cell. And yes, that's the case that you want. And then it puts everything in a nice table format like you've seen. So if you actually see anything online where you can download a comma-separated file, that's a spreadsheet. So when you see CSV, that's a spreadsheet. When you see Excel, that's a spreadsheet.
Awesome. Okay, so now ascertains question. I don't think you got it. And then just a follow-up for all of the videos, and I'm like, we go live and we just chat, and that's the beauty of coming into the live streams. You never know where we're going to take it because it's all driven by your questions. This session today was driven by a question from somebody in our members training this past Saturday. So that's why you show up. That's why you ask a lot of questions. If we don't answer your questions, you put it in the comments and it may trigger a new video. But ascertain, can you use spreadsheets to record DNA information, like record them by their names, and then 23andMe, kit number, MyHeritage, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. I've done that before for different things where I'm actually looking at how much DNA is shared between the different sites by the same person, the same match between different sites, how much they share. So that's, may be useful depending on how you want to manipulate things. I would probably keep that to more of a cluster level once you actually have a cluster of people that are related and you're trying to figure out how they're all related, to then going and adding in the information from different things. So let me show you this real quick. So this is on a leads chart for my grandma, and one of the things that I have here is I have other sites. So whenever I know that this match has been on another site, in this case it's MyHeritage for the H, I'm not sure where else, yeah, then that triggers me that if I'm ever looking at this, I can actually go over to her MyHeritage and see what other people there. And in this case, this has looks like some 23andMe people that are there. So I can look at these different copies of the leads chart for these different websites, and I've linked certain people together. So you can absolutely use that in that way. Now, I saw, nope, don't go down to the bottom.
I'm at the bottom.
Oh yeah, Tiffany has a comment there.
I think I will be using some spreadsheets to help figure out my grandmother brick wall. She has a common name, and in the state she lived, it is difficult to keep 3 women from the same name straight.
And this is a great place where if you have a situation like that, and it doesn't have to be a big table, you can actually lay out a table of all these women off of, let's say, a census record, and then the next column is another census record, and the next column is another census record, and then maybe you have birth records where you're actually laying out what information goes with each person to help separate out who one kid belongs to from a common named mother.
Mm-hmm. It is okay, Maria. Maria said, I really want to be able to do this because she struggles. It is okay to struggle. That's why you just keep asking more questions. So I hope that we covered some possibilities with Google Spreadsheets for genealogy, some possibilities. We hope you told you some basics on how you can do certain things. There are some, they're already in the description. If you still want to have some more basic training on using Google Sheets, you will find some links in the descriptions for some other people on YouTube that have done some training. I think there's also another genealogy spreadsheet video training as well. So I already have that preloaded because I know you would want to go watch something next. So you can go ahead and head to the description, and then all of the other ones I talked about, I'll get you the links, and then I'll make that blog post within the next week. So any other questions? I think the questions have dried up in the queue.
I was going to say, this is the last day to sign up for the Winter of DNA virtual conference, which is tomorrow, with Kitty Cooper and Tim Jansen and Marion Woods. Michelle Leonard. I forgot Michelle. Sorry, Michelle.
It's hard to be live and then remember everything that you know.
So if you don't mind putting a link there, familyhistoryfanatics.com/winterdna. It's $24.99 right now. There's going to be some great prizes, some DNA kits, some Tier 1 memberships at GEDmatch, as well as some other things. So looking forward to it.
Yep, and if you have any other questions, make sure you put them in the comments section because the live chat will be ending as soon as I hit end. And we will keep the questions going. Don't leave thinking, oh, that's not what I wanted. Ask us more questions. We'll come back and answer them in another session. Where do you find the blog URL? I'm glad you asked that, Robert. Blog. Here it is. It already is in the description, but I put it there as well. How much is it? The conference, $24.99.
$24.99 American
dollars. All right. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Did I sign up? Oh, June, you don't have to sign up for this one because you were our free winner for going and loving all over our blog. Now, if Andy doesn't have you signed up, he will have you signed up when we're done.
You got to tell me these things. I don't think she's signed up.
I'm going to go make sure we have your...
Make sure you're signed up, June.
No, I'll take care of it. I have her email. I know how to stalk her. It's all good.
Okay. We'll see you all later.
Okay.